It's really, really great to have you on the show again. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on the show again, Susan. Always nice to chat with you. And for the people who doesn't know me, my name is Rudi Carraro. I am the global brand ambassador for Grupo Montenegro. And today I'm the specific. We're going to talk about the Select Aperitivo.
Fabulous. Well, I guess why don't we start with the history? Because as you can see, for everyone who may be watching this on YouTube, I am holding my Select Spritz. So I'm sure we'll get to how this is made, what's in it, and why the olive. So go ahead. Why don't we start with a little history?
Absolutely, absolutely. So Select is the original alternative from Venice. And well, Venice is the place where everything started. Two brothers, Mario and Vittorio Pilla, decided to open a distillery in 1919 in the heart of Venice. And after finalizing the recipe, they managed to release Select recipe in the 1920. So we're happy to celebrate 103 years of history and Venetian heritage. From the very first beginning, of course, Select, we don't have to think about it as a cocktail ingredient, but during those time, it was just drink neat, or maybe with a bit of soda or a bit of ice. And for this reason, it started to get good success around the Venetian island, the Venetian region as well, and then shortly as well around Italy, because the Pilla brothers, after seeing that it was having a good success, they decided to invest in a very big advertisement and marketing campaign that brought Select from a local Venetian aperitif to a countrywide aperitif. And the when things start to get better in terms of revenue and business, the
Yeah.
Pilla brothers start to have the idea to expand. And for this reason, unfortunately, in downtown Venice, there was no more room to expand because, as you may know, Venice is Venice, and
It's pretty
because
small.
of canals and water, it's difficult to build more in there. So they decide to relocate the production just a few meters away, actually a few kilometers away from downtown Venice. And I'm talking about Porto Marghera, the Marghera Harbor, which is the main, still today, industrial port
Yeah.
harbor that is on the first piece of the mainland that you'll find live in Venice. So they were still very close to the city, but at the same time, by moving the production plant to the mainland, they would have access to a better connection with the land, okay, in terms of getting the raw materials and as well shipping it over the country, all over the country, but at the same time, a much more high-tech and productive production plant. And these were the 30s. So in just a 10 years time, the Pilla brothers found themselves with a very high hand efficiency for the time, of course, production plant that could cope with the demand for Select. So things were going very, very well, and the Pilla brothers couldn't be happier.
I'm
Unfortunately,
sure.
indeed. Unfortunately, though, there was the downtime that was the Second World War, and
Of
it
course.
was a very hard hit on the Pilla brothers. And I'm going to explain you why. The
Okay.
Marghera Harbor is actually a very strategic area because it's in the Gulf of Venice. And of course, it could be, it was transformed into a military base by the government that confiscated all the warehouses of course, Pilla Brothers and all the industry and the companies, factories that were built there so that they could use it as a military base. And for this reason, it became a target that got heavily bombed during the Second World War. And this is the turning point because the Pilla brothers, after creating this amazing brand, after spending a lot of money and all their resources on or rebuilding the new building the new production plant, they found themselves with nothing left. So they had to wait until the conflict was over. And this is actually the turning point because a lot of small brands completely disappeared after the Second World War because they were family-run businesses or small businesses that didn't have the financial strength and resources to start anew. Luckily for us, the Pilla brothers did not give up and they relocated to the island of Murano, which is very famous for the glass blowing artist. And they kept on going with their small production until then, until the time, more prosperous times. So the end of the 60s, the 70s, La Dolce Vita style that everybody associate the black and white Italian movie with. Well, that is the
Of
time
course.
when Select start to, and the aperitivo itself start to become part of the Italian lifestyle. And that is the moment when we see Select being back to the volumes that it used to be consumed before, even more, of course, than the Second World War. And at the same time, not only with ice or maybe with a bit of soda, but also part of the Spritz, Select Spritz recipe, or the original Venetian Spritz recipe that I'm going to maybe explain the origins of it a little bit later.
Yes, definitely. Murano must have been, Murano's even smaller than Venice, so it must have been tiny. Um, how long did it take until they realized, oh boy, Murano is just not going to be big enough, or your place in Murano is not going to be big enough to handle all the quantity that was, needed for all these
So
aperitivi?
basically, the Pilla brothers hold on to the brands until they couldn't cope anymore. When the company that the brothers founded, and they found some around the 60s. They found some outside help from an
Mhm.
investor that relocate the production not in Venice but in Bologna, and that is the reason why in 1988 Gruppo Montenegro acquired the Pilla brands, including Select. And well, until, as you may know, last May, the production was still in Bologna, but now we're proudly back into Venice. But I'm going to tell you a bit more details on it in a second.
I know. I've been there, and I can't wait for everyone to hear about it. But of course, we don't know what the Pila brothers thought, but it must have been a little bit heartbreaking for them to leave Venice and go to Bologna, even though it was great for them to get outside investment. I understand that. And how lovely it would be if they were still alive to know that it was back in Venice.
Exactly, exactly. So hopefully we did right to them. And thanks to Gruppo Montenegro long vision and investment plan, in 2018, the process of bringing Select back to Venice started. So the company acquired a beautiful building, and then unfortunately, the pandemic delayed the project a little bit, but we managed to open in May 2023 our new home, the new home of our Select in in downtown Venice, which is called Ca Select. And so, we are proudly taking back the production to the original city of Select. And at the same time, we also have a visitor center. We have a space event, we have conference space as well. And of course, a beautiful state of the art bar that I could be talking about it for hours, but I wouldn't, give justice to it, because the only way to appreciate it is actually to see it in person. So, whenever you come down to Venice, you or anyone that is listening right now, there'll be a message that's going to take you around. It's going to be
Oh, it is fabulous. I was so lucky. I was there a few months ago, actually a month ago, and it looks glorious. It is
yeah,
really,
indeed,
really
indeed.
fabulous and a great home for Select. Now, I'm not sure if you know what the Pila brothers were thinking on why to create Select and how to create Select and what to put in it, but could you give us whatever, information that you have or that's in the record
Yeah,
books?
absolutely. So you have to imagine that at that time, Venice was already established as the heart of the spice trade, the Silk Route, back in the days, the Marco Polo travels. So it was a busy place where ingredients from all around the world was coming into the Europe. Uh, and basically, the Pilla brothers decided that they would create this very unique recipe, not using just Italian ingredients, but using all the ingredients that they had at their disposition, which were an array of different ingredients, botanicals coming from all around the world. For this reason, still today, the recipe of Select contains 30 different botanicals that, of course, as I said, comes from all around the world, and constitute the heart, the essence of Select itself. Because what we are right now, we are of course, the original aperitif from Venice, but at the same time, the ingredient for the original Venetian Spritz, and the taste needs to be very distinguished. So that's our signature, and that's why we have this very well balanced flavor profile, which is not too bitter, which is not too sweet, and is very long and lingering, persisting. Because some of the key botanicals that we use in Select are the juniper berries, which We don't treat in any way because we macerate them and then we distill them, so we don't have to worry about anything that comes from outside. So in this way, we keep all the resin, all the essential oils that we need to have a very nice fragrant juniper distill. The second botanica, which is very important for Select, is the rhubarb, which is the Chinese rhubarb rhizome that comes all the way from China, which is the best country where you can get a dried rhubarb rhizome. And the rhubarb rhizome undergo the maceration extraction process. And since is kind of a hard botanical to extract flavors from, well, to extract the flavors as we like them, as the Pilla brothers did, only to extract the rhubarb flavors, it takes us 3 months, only for that particular ingredient.
Oh
Yeah.
boy.
So we keep things like the Pilla brothers used to do. And then we have, I would say, classic, but let's say the more known botanicals when it comes to bitter liquors, which is the Artemisia or wormwood, which gives the longer, bitter, lingering finish to Select. And, is basically the sensation that makes you want to go back to the second sip and the second spritz as well. And then we have other botanicals that, if you look at the bottle of Select, they are hidden in the label as well, which are a bitter orange, cardamom, and some maize as well.
Well, yes, let's talk about the label before we talk about the spritz.
Mhm.
I have the gorgeous bottle here, and it has it changed much since the beginning?
So basically, in 2018, what we did was the company wanted to bring a much more modern approach to all the brands of the company, including Select. So we went back with the design and the label of the bottle to what was the original style. So also to get ready for the 100-year anniversary that we celebrate in 2020, what we wanted to do is to return to the origin. So if you look at the bottle, you can just Google, Select from the 20s, from the 30s. As soon as it was born, the bottle and the label, basically they look the same. This is just a modern version of it. So we really wanted to give Select the prestige that they need, since the recipe has never changed since the 1920. Well, we went back to the original bottle and label as well. And
Of course, and I love that Pila is front and center for the boys who started it.
absolutely. So what we say about our brand, we say that they are talking bottles, because on the front label, you have all the key information about the brand. So you got the 1920 Select, the Pilla Brothers, what is it, a bitter aperitif, where it
And made in
made in
Venice.
Venice, exactly. And then if you turn it around, there are a few tips on how to make the perfect original Venetian Spritz, and of course, a bit of history as well.
Of course, and just in case
And then
you
and then we have
don't know again how to make the spritz, you've got it inside here again.
correct. We have the neck hanger, which are important when it comes to consumers, because we are from the industry, so we know how to make a spritz. But there are a few people around there that maybe they're interested about the bottle, but they don't really know what to do about it. So this is a very nice way on how to explain how to use the product.
And you make it in a very specific way, as I said, with the green olive. So why don't you let us know how that evolved, that your spritz, the original Venetian spritz, evolved.
Absolutely. So as you may have heard already, the spritz came into existence in the Venetian area, in Venice. Because at the end of the 1800s, beginning of the 1900s, the whole area was still under the Austrian-Hungarian Empire. And the legend says that, the people ruling Venice at that time were going around, the soldiers of the empire were going around the city asking for glasses of wine to the bartenders from the local bars, the bar, but they would find it too strong, too high in acidity, too high in ABV for them. So they would often ask to get spritz a little bit of soda water inside the glass of wine, just to make it a little more easy to drink. And from Gespritz, hence the name Spritz. And this is the very first idea, product, recipe of the Spritz. So white wine and soda water. We need to wait to the 50s to see the introduction of the bitter inside the Spritz recipe. Because as I mentioned before, even though Select was born in the 1920s, well, it was not popular as a cocktail ingredient or a split ingredient yet. It became, so, the Spritz recipe and the Select consumption were on a parallel line. So people were drinking white wine and soda water as a Spritz, and Select with ice and soda on the other line. These two these two lines meet around the 50s. Okay, so after the dark time of the Second World War was over. And basically what happened, like for the Negroni, there was a regular customers that walks into his favorite baccarat that had a very harsh day and asked the bartender to make the spritz with more of a kick. And the bartender just turned around, took the bottle of Select and had a splash, just a splash of Select into their that time spritz recipe. And this is the introduction of the bitter into the spritz recipe.
Okay.
Then we need to wait until the 70s, the famous time, which is, I already mentioned before, where the aperitivo moment start to become one altogether with Italian lifestyle, and all the people could not go home before doing an aperitivo, or sometimes they would just forget to go home and they would just like carry on with the aperitivo until later in the evening. We see the recipe changing for the last time, because it's not, the Select is not a splash anymore, but it's just, it became a too solid part, so predominant flavor in there. And at the same time, we see the switch from white wine to Prosecco, that until then, Prosecco was considered just like the farmer's wine from the hills aside from Venice. But slowly, the technique implemented, the flavor started to get better. And it became the local wine for not only the Venetian hills, Valdoviadene, etc., but also to, the Venice downtown. And when it made it into Venice downtown, well, it was easy to replace the white wine to this, more sexy, appealing version of the sparkling wine that complete the recipe. But
Of course.
so the 3 parts of Prosecco, 2 parts of Select, 1 splash of soda water to keep to stay true to the origin. And at the same time, we need our signature in our Select Spritz, which is our olive. So we garnish our spritz with the green olive. And this is because we want to stay close to tradition, the Venetian tradition of the baccarats, the local bars where you always have something to eat with your Select Spritz. So you go in your bar, you order your Select Spritz, and then you have some cicchetti. Now this word is,
Right.
quite famous all around the world. And cicchetti means like a small bite, something to nibble while you drink your spritz, and then you carry on with your day. So the olive is there to represent the fact that you always eat something while you're sipping your spritz. And at the same time, the olives that are kept in brine, by adding the olives that are kept in brine, you really add this savory, salty touch that really gives to the original Venetian spritz an umami flavor that completes the recipe itself. And then don't worry, it's up to you if you want to bite it at the beginning, in the middle of your experience, or if you want to leave it there until the end and then bite it at the end. So there is no rule on that, just as you feel like to do it.
I love it. No rules. You know what? I always think of the olive as just being a normal thing, obviously, because I've had the Spritz in Venice so many times, and that it is a true aperitivo. If you're going to drink it before dinner, why would you have anything other but an olive in it? Because, as you said, it adds that little bit of umami, saltiness. And by the way, I like it after, because then it's got all the delicious Select and Prosecco and everything is
Nice.
kind of
Yeah,
in
nice.
it. Yes, I love it. I love it. It's a fabulous drink.
Yeah, indeed.
So is there anything else that we should know about Select?
Oh,
You
well, if you wanna, get your memory refreshed, there is always our, beautiful website, which is selectaperitivo.com. And as I said, Select is our new visitor center, so it's gonna be up and running soon in Venice. As I'm saying soon because we still have to tweak a couple of things before being fully open every single day. But people that wants to visit, they can also drop us an email there. They go on the website, they can find information. There is also the website link to Select. And yeah.
Oh, and of course, in May I had just missed Spritz Week.
Oh yes, of course.
So will you be doing that again next year?
Absolutely. Spritz Week is basically our way to celebrate the original Venetian Spritz, so the Select Spritz. So it's an activation that we start in 2023, in May 2023, and now we're going to do it every year. So we're going to celebrate Select around Venice, and as well around the world, because with our partners all around the world, we also going to do activation. We're going to summer terraces where we bring the original Venetian Spritz, the Select experience, and a touch of Venice all around the world. That could happen in London, in New York, in Singapore. So you might be around the world, but still be able to enjoy the true Venetian moment of the aperitif with Select.
Great, great. And if everyone who's listening to this anyone is in London, I saw that you're doing it at one of my favorite bars, which is FAM, in Marylebone.
Well,
So that you can, you can do you can definitely have the Select Spritz right there. There's a beautiful terrace. It's outside. Everyone was enjoying them yesterday.
absolutely. Or at the same time, you can just head down to South Bank and do all the promenade, beautiful. And when you are in front of Tower Bridge, you're gonna see beautiful Select Spritz bar where you can enjoy our Spritz. And well, they also have the beautiful view of Tower Bridge.
Everyone should look for it all over the world. Thank you so much, Rudi. This is great. I already have my Spritz, by the way, in a Murano glass,
Beautiful.
a true Venetian Spritz. And it's a great summer drink, and I really thank you for taking the time to tell us all about the history. And have a great summer, everyone.
Thank you very much, Susan. And well, until next time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Bye bye. Ciao.